I'm going to share my screen. Okay. If there are any questions or comments, please feel free to post those into the chat, or there's a question and answer section there as well. So feel free to use any of those, and I'll as they come up, I'll either answer them, or probably perhaps I'll wait to the very end to kind of answer them as we get near the end there. Okay. So today we're actually going to be talking about more of our important processes that we need to really focus on within Revit itself, or within managing projects within Revit, because we do have a lot of different content within the project, or not just within our individual project, but rather projects throughout all of our offices. And we're constantly bringing in more content, and we need to make sure that that content actually suits our projects correctly. It actually works with our schedules. It's actually able to do the things that we need it to do. Okay. So for example, if I were to go to Revit City and download a brand new door, there's almost a 0% chance that that's going to jive 100% perfectly with our current existing door schedule. Okay, so we need a very quick and easy way to take all of this content that we have and utilize it, for our projects, and not just the one project that I'm working. I don't just want to hack it together and make it work for this one project. I want to actually make sure that this content can in fact be used not just for my one project, but rather all of our projects. And I want to be able to do this in a very quick and easy and seamless way. And the way we take care of all of this is actually with our shared parameter files. Okay, so the best practice around shared parameter files is actually to have a single shared parameter file for your entire company. Not just, hey, I have one per, not just one per office, and I might have multiple offices, but rather one per company, because there are times when we do work together across multiple offices on individual projects. And when that happens, we need to make sure that the content we use, the content we grab, does sync together and does work together smoothly. Okay. Okay. And then after that, we also have, just the loadable content. For example, if I'm taking a look in my project here, I just have a simple door over here. Now, I know for a fact that my shared parameter file, it has a panel material, but my shared parameter for this panel material is actually a material parameter, whereas this one is text. This one is text-based. So those two do not jive together. Those two do not work together. So we need to make sure that we're able to not just go through this one individual family, but rather all of our families, and actually fix them to make sure that they in fact work together. Okay, so that's something else we're going to be able to go through today as well. All right. The same thing when it comes to system families. Okay, so if I have, let's say project parameters built into a bunch of our, if I have project parameters built into a bunch of our system families, I need to be able to utilize shared parameters with those so that I can tag them, so that I can schedule them correctly. So making sure this whole ecosystem is in fact working together. So it actually works as one cohesive piece. All right. And then lastly, we have our Revit templates. Okay, so are we using a basic Revit template where it was just the RTE file? So for example, if I go into up into File and I want to create a brand new project, it's instantly going to ask me for a template file that I want to start with. Now, do I actually want to start with a template file? Well, what's the actual limitations of all of these that we need to be able to be aware of? Well, obviously, I can't actually have work sharing enabled in a template file. That's just not possible. And therefore, I can't have work sets enabled in those template files. I also can't have preloaded links in my template files. Again, something that's not the best, not the easiest thing moving forward. But if I were to just create a Revit project and with work sharing enabled, I can have a bunch of pre-made work sets. I can have a bunch of dummy links built into them, whether it's CAD, whether it's Revit, whether it's Navisworks, a whole bunch of different things. I can preload in dummy versions of those. And based on that, I can also now have view templates put together so that I don't have to worry about are all of my view templates working, or do I have to go back into them and now fix them for whatever else I need them to do? Okay, so I can, based on those dummy templates or those dummy links, I can simply click on one and say, oh, this is a mechanical file. I need to click on it and then reload from, grab the actual mechanical file, and all of my view templates are still functioning. It's already on its correct work set, and everything else just works together a lot more smoothly. So those basic Revit template files are something that we can definitely work together with. But to start off, everything in the entire project is really based around our shared parameters. So our shared parameters that we need to work with are entirely based on, let's say, we all kind of see that if we go to manage, we can see our shared parameters, and we can actually see a whole list of all of the shared parameters that we have. Now, these are the basic ones that this is my shared parameter file that I'm using currently. And it has a lot of different stuff in it, and I have a lot of different groups and stuff built into that, and that's fine. But I need to be able to understand what is the quality of that. Do I have multiple shared parameter files for some reason? Maybe a client handed me a shared parameter file so I can work with that and actually be able to move some shared parameters around if need be. So there's several different reasons why many things I could have multiple files, but in general, we only really want one file. And how do we actually make sure that the parameters I have in one match up with the parameters I have in another? And that's really where our first tool for today comes in. So I'm working with our CTC software, and I'm actually looking at the BIM Manager Suite, okay? So the BIM Manager Suite here, I'm specifically looking for the Shared Parameter Manager, okay? So I'm simply gonna load up the Shared Parameter Manager, and I'm gonna, I can see that I have the option to include not just a single shared parameter file, and if I load this in, I can load up my entire shared parameter file. And if I need to, I can go into something like materials and finishes. There's a lot of different materials and finishes that we can go through in here. So if I have panel material in here, I can in fact modify this in my shared parameter file. And in my file, I know for a fact, this is in fact a material parameter. This is what I want it to see. This is what I want it to be. I can change the group. I can change the name, the discipline, the parameter type. I can change that tooltip if I need to. Okay. Be very cognizant about what we're doing here, because this will change that GUID, that global unique identifier that must stay unique. This changing stuff here will, aside from the group, everything else will change that GUID. I mean, we can do this stuff manually, But when we open up a shared parameter file, that text file, the first line item we see is do not change this, do not change the shared parameter file manually. It has it's very easy to break them. If you don't know exactly what you're doing, it's very easy to simply break an entire shared parameter file. And that can cause many, many, many problems. Okay, so using this tool, we do have the ability to change those. It will change that GUID in the background, and therefore we will need to go back and make some adjustments. But we're also going to talk about a workflow regarding that as well. Okay, so by using that, we can actually, so I can in fact take a look at individual parameters, individual shared parameters, and actually modify them, add more parameters, delete some, move some around, do a whole bunch of different things with those individual things, including groups. And if I needed to, I can always add all of the default groups that we have included as part of the standard families that we have. So if I go into the family editor and I want to make a brand new parameter, it's going to ask us to put our parameter under a specific group. This list here is that same list of groups. That said, and I really recommend we all use these because it does have a very common space throughout every different aspect. So not just in our shared parameters, but also within our individual families. Okay. Okay, so all of those can then be utilized as something different. That's not to say that we can't make our own custom groups within shared parameters. It's very common that we do. It's very important that we have that ability to do that. But that's not only what this tool really is all about. Now, I can change this an individual parameter, but I can also, let's say, I have another shared parameter file. I can open that up. And now I can say, oh, you know what? I'm looking to see, well, what is a duplicate? So what is the exact same between each of my individual files? So I can go up here to my filter, and I can filter it out based on what's a duplicate. So I can see that this frame type parameter is exactly the same, has the exact same GUID as the frame type parameter right here. It has the same name, it has the same parameter type, it's got the same GUID in the background, it's got everything the same, they're identical. There's no difference between the two. So this is good. I want to be able to see this so that if I'm using my first shared parameter file to create a door and then I add that frame type parameter, that works fine. But I can also do the exact same thing with this second shared parameter file, and that will also work fine. So I have no issues with this. Okay. But on the other hand, I have conflicts. Under my identity data, I have this copyright. Well, I can mouse over it, just leave a mouse there, and it actually tells me that the GUID is in fact different between those two shared parameter files. So I know for a fact if I'm tagging or if I'm scheduling this individual parameter, it's not going to work for me. Okay. So for example, if I go back down to materials and finishes, and I want to take a look at frame finish. I know this frame finish over here has a completely different GUID. It has the same name, but it's a different GUID. So it's going to be a completely different parameter entirely. So same thing with parameter or frame material. So all of those are in fact a conflict. So anything that I see and work with within the first shared parameter file, it's not going to work if I specify that frame material with the second shared parameter file, it's not going to work. All right. So what I need to be able to do is actually go in and say, let's only work with those conflicts. So once I have those conflicts, I can actually delete them, move them around, and do whatever else I need to do. Okay. So if I said I want my identity data, and there's a whole bunch of different things that I can do with it. So for example, if I want my version number, I need that to be the same, but I'm specifying that I want to use this individual the GUID or the parameter, the shared parameter from the second file. How do I actually put it into my first one? Well, I'm actually going to take this version number here, and I'm going to delete it from my first file. Okay, so now it's gone from my first file, but I can still see that here. And now I can simply take this and just drag and drop. Oops, I have to drag it onto the version number and just drag that onto the group name there. And then going all the way back down, version number is back in. And now if I go back to duplicate, I can see version number is in fact the same. So both highlighted as duplicates. And using this, I could also see all of the different unique parameters. So right here, I have a whole bunch of these control parameters. I can in fact take all of these and simply load them into wherever I need them to go. So I want, let's say, all of these control parameters. I'm just going to drop them under my other. So now, oops, go back down. Other. I have a bunch of those control parameters still there. Those work exactly. I'm able to just transfer stuff back and forth as I need to. So I can check, I don't want any highlighting or filtering at all, but maybe I want to see what conflicts do I have. What's unique between one file and the other? What's a duplicate? What has naming issues? That's actually a really important one. As I'm going through, like, okay, shut minus off delay. What is that actually? Because when we're using that within formulas within a family, Revit doesn't care that that's a hyphen. It looks at it and says, oh, that is actually the subtraction symbol. So lens minus louver. What is that as a formula? So we can work around that, but would it not be a lot easier for all of our staff to simply start using families and not have to worry about, are my names going to cause issues within my within project naming? So again, over here, design load NAFS minus 08, which is going to then round off to 8. So it's not only going to change within formulas within the family, it's not only going to change how this functions, but it might actually change the name of it itself. Okay, it's going to add units and it's going to do all those other things. Okay, so all of these have some sort of naming issue that we need to worry about within. We should be able to take a look at and kind of work with and make sure that we can make these actually work for us rather than working against us. So we are in fact able to kind of take this and kind of, okay, so hypothetically I have 3 shared parameter files. I can say, okay, this is gonna be my master, and then I can load up one of the other ones over here, and then just drag over the ones I need, drag over the common ones, and then load up the other one, and again, drag over the common ones, make sure that those are all the ones I have, make sure that they fix any conflicts that we may have, look at what the unique ones, what's the same. I can work with all of that. But now I have this, glorious, amazing single shared perimeter file. And I may have, but I may have changed a bunch of those shared parameters. I've changed what that GUID is in that shared parameter file. Well, that's no good because now all of the families that I have no longer work with that shared perimeter file. All of the families that I have now have a different definition of a shared perimeter than the shared perimeter file. So, for example, if I take a look at this individual door, I'm just going to edit this individual door here. And the standard option here is to actually go into to change out a perimeter, is to just go into our family types dialog. And now I can go down to, oh, hey, here's my panel material, and I can see it's a text type. So I'm actually going to edit this individual perimeter. But there's a mistake here because it is a shared perimeter, and that's great. But it also gives me the option to export, which means it's not currently, this shared perimeter is not currently defined in my shared perimeter file. So having the option to export, not necessarily the best thing in the world. And if I try and select something and I go down to materials and finishes, and I want panel material, and say, okay, oh, I can't do that because the original type is text, and the one I want is actually a material perimeter. That's a problem. So I can't just swap this out like I would normally, but it's not really allowing me to do that. So instead, I really have no other option I can delete this, which would destroy any formula that this is based on. It would destroy anything within the family that is also based on this individual perimeter. And then I can put in my brand new one, and hopefully I remember what all the formulas were to be able to put those back. And hopefully I know where all of the different parameters within the actual family are, so I can reassociate all of those. And hopefully I did all of that right. But that's not always the case. We don't always have those. We don't always have that option available to us. So instead, we're actually going to take a look at the family processor within this CTC BIM manager suite. So the family processor is actually a tool that allows us to very quickly change out our families. So I can do a lot of different things with the family itself. So I can work with keynotes down here. I can set a whole bunch of different things. I can work with lookup tables, adding and deleting lookup tables. I can change materials, not just deleting materials, but also I want to add brand new ones, or I want to make a change to a material that's already there. I can change individual parameters. So I'm actually going to load up a shared parameter file here. And now, you know what? Maybe I want to swap out within this family my frame finish for my frame finish, and my panel finish for my panel finish, and panel material for panel material from my family to that corresponding same name in my shared parameter file. Well, if I just take, let's say, my frame depth here, and I want to add that selected one. Whoops, that's not what I want to do. Whoops, that's just deleting. I don't want to delete. So I can delete parameters. I can add shared parameters. I can add family parameters. So, or I can even replace parameters with shared parameters or other parameters I need to change. In my case, if I want to just change something, so let's say I want to add this frame depth, it instantly found since I added the frame depth from my family, it automatically puts that down here at the bottom. It knows exactly what the frame type or the parameter type is, as well. It already found that frame depth in the shared parameter file as well. So because I have a consistent naming throughout all of my files, it's instantly going to be able to find all of those different things. So if I want to go in and say, I want frame finish, frame thickness, I want panel depth, panel finish, panel material. So all of these are able to actually go through and find. But if I want something like, oh, base plate, well, my base plate is not necessarily called a base plate, it's called something else. But this list, this drop down here, gives me a whole other list of available yes/no parameters that I can actually grab and swap out here. So in my case, instead of base plate, I'm actually calling it a threshold. Whoops, threshold. So I'm swapping out my base plate parameter with my threshold parameter. And I can set up all of these different things. So I'm able to actually utilize all of these different changes that I can make to my, all of my, to this family, and then go through, okay, what can I actually change in here? And what can I actually move up and down? What order is it actually going to make all these changes to my my project? Because maybe I need to delete a lookup table before I import additional lookup tables, because if there's if I import before I delete, well, I may import lookup table 1 and then delete lookup table 1. I need to do that in a different order so that actually it actually works out correctly. And we can change this as if we need to, or do certain things. So if I don't want to delete materials, I can simply remove that. Okay. Next thing, I can either do this just on my single individual current family that I have, or I can set this up to work with any number of families. So if I said, oh, hey, grab all the doors in my entire project, put them in a individual folder, I then can specify, oh, hey, look for all of those doors and replace certain parameters, add specific parameters. Make sure that I'm actually utilizing those correct shared parameters throughout all of these families. Okay, so within a matter of, like, let's say 20 minutes or so, I can go through all of these settings. I can find the options that I need for, let's say, the couple hundred, couple thousand families that I might have that need to be able to change out, and hit go, and it will begin processing. And let's say if I put together 4,000 families that need to be processed, I can do that in a few short hours. It'll run through each and every single one of those families and do exactly what you told it to do. On the other hand, if I wanted to do that manually, I could go through and click, 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 find my existing parameter, check to make sure it's the right name, but oh no, it's the wrong type. So now I have to delete it and put in my brand new one, and oh no, my formulas are all broken. Or oh no, I need to reassociate that to a whole bunch of different stuff. So coupled with it taking a lot longer to do all those stuff manually, I might take half an hour to do an individual family. I can instead utilize this, and an individual family takes seconds. But I can do this now, specify hundreds, if not thousands of families to run through. So a couple hundred families will be done in a few short minutes. If I set 4,000 families, yeah, I'm just going to go for a meeting. I'm going to grab a coffee, stretch my legs for a minute, come back, and it should be mostly done. So this family processor allows us to actually utilize some automating techniques to actually make this a lot easier for everyone involved. And at the end of the day, we're going to have families that are good, that are families that are actually built to work with our schedules, families that are built to work with our tags. Okay, so all of that is going to work together. before I continue on this, there is one thing that I wanted to point out. Each one of the tools that we utilize actually have these 4 buttons at the top. So help, videos, support, and about. This help button will give you a massive PDF, and it will navigate directly into the PDF to the location about this individual tool. Videos, it'll open up YouTube, and it will give you a video explanation on how this tool works, with a lot more in depth than I'm currently giving. Support, if you're actually having problems, if the tool's not working as it's supposed to, if we can't get it working in the first place, if it's giving me errors, support is definitely, it'll get you into this little button here, just get you into contact with anyone from our support team to be able to give you the answers that you need to help you move forward. And then lastly, it's just the about, which gives you the version number and a whole bunch of other things. So stuff about the, which allows you to, it also gives you a nice little download button to install the latest system, as well as a bunch of other things. So if you get a user guide or whatever else needs to be put in place there. So all of our tools have these sets up here. Okay. So now we know that we have a good shared parameter file that's actually solid and works with our project. We have all of our loadable content done. We know that the parameters within our families are in fact set up. They're actually working correctly with all of our tags and schedules and everything else. So we know those will work. Okay. But there's also, you know, hey, if I'm looking at, now that I have all of this content, what's the best actual situation for actually getting this stuff to our users? Because we can all just designate a spot on our server and say that's where the content goes. But who's in charge of curating that? Someone needs to be, otherwise it's just someone's going to overwrite a family in there, and then we're going to have garbage going in and out, and the changes are going to happen from one project to another. Hey, I'm dropping other stuff in there, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's been looked through, maybe it actually fundamentally breaks what we're trying to accomplish here. So a lot of firms that I work with actually use the process of creating a warehouse file. So they have a single individual project that has all of their typical details, those drafting views. They have all the typical system families, like wall types and floor types. They have all of their standard, all the standard loadable families. So like doors and windows, all of that is in there. But if we taking a look at that, if we have too much content, all of a sudden it takes a long time to open that up. And it still allows the user to make changes if they need to. So what happens, so is that the best option? Well, maybe not. It really depends on your entire, your workflows really, and the content that you have. So instead, I recommend, or what we have available to us is actually this content management system, Hive. So I'm just loading up Hive right here. So Hive is actually allows us to take all of this content that we have, and at the touch of our fingertips, we can go through and say, oh, hey, I want to look in, let's say I want to look in, where's my, I want to look for a type A wall. My type A wall type. What does that actually look like for me? Well, I'm actually going to go through and look into my filters. I'm actually going to look at my specific libraries that I have, and I have a ton of different libraries. So if I need to segregate different things based on, oh, this is for our mechanical content from our mechanical team, they're only going to look at the mechanical library. Same thing for the structural content, the structural team. It's specific to them, or architectural, or maybe it's, I have some very sensitive DoD projects that need to actually be segregated. Not everyone will be invited to all libraries. I can have, libraries set aside to so only specific people can see those. Okay. So this content management system, I can very easily just say, oh, hey, here's a type A wall. And maybe, okay, the further down the list I go, it's no longer type A, but it's close to type A. So I have this type B wall over here, or a type C, or a type D. Or maybe I have this table and chairs, and I'm actually able to take a look inside of that set of tables or other template files. And I'm actually able to see all of the different parameters within each of those. So in this case, this is a schedule out of a Revit project. I can simply drag and drop that onto my Revit project, and it will load that in, instantly utilizing that individual, using that individual file and bringing it into your project. You'll know it's the exact right thing that you need. Okay. So along with that, it actually this tool actually allows us to differentiate what version of something that we're using. So just because if I have loaded in a 2018, let's say door in Revit 2018, that does not mean I can't also load the 2020 version. One second. Apologies there. Just because I have the Revit 2018 version does not mean I can't also have the Revit 2020 version in here. And it won't be two separate items side by side, but rather one item, and I can pick the version, pick between different versions. And going through here, I can actually click on an individual item and see all the different parameters inside of there. So the type mark here is set to A. So I know that type A is not just looking at the name of this individual thing, but also looking within the parameters of this individual wall. Okay. And we're able to actually take a look at a bunch of different things and see what is actually available in here, to see what parameters we have available to us. Now, the program itself, there are other programs out there that do something very similar, but in the two major cases that the major competitors to this, it's either 100% online. So you can't have a local version of this. It must be online. So if you have sensitive projects or sensitive content, it's really hard to keep track of that kind of stuff and make sure that it's only getting into the right hands. Or the other option is, it's only on your local server, but now if I have multiple offices or people working from home, which, let's face it, nowadays we do have people working from home, they can't get access to that content. With Hive, we can get the best of both worlds, because I can say, hey, I want all of this on a local server. Well, that works great, especially for the sensitive content or the stuff that I simply don't want to put out in the cloud. But I also have the option to push stuff into the cloud. I also have the option to make it available to individual. I have the option to make this stuff available, or whichever library is available to whoever needs it, whoever I deem to have access to our Hive. Okay. And so very easily, I can actually utilize this. So I want to draw with this type A wall. I can simply drag and drop, or I think my computer's just buggy today. I'm going to load that in. It's going to just automatically upgrade that because it was a 2018 wall, but I have a 2020 project. And now I can instantly start drawing with that individual wall. So this is my type A. And under my type parameters, type mark is A3 over here. Okay. So at this point, does anyone have any questions at all regarding anything I've covered or any other random questions that we may have regarding any of these tools or workflows or anything like that? Okay. Oh, and to point out, it's one low price for all of these tools together. So you'll have access to things like dim checker, and there's a whole bunch of free tools built in as well. So even if you're not paying for all of these other tools, these light blue tools in here are in fact free. So download the tool, start with a free trial, and you'll get access to these permanently, even if you're not paying for these dark blue tools up here. Okay, and you may not necessarily be utilizing all of these tools for everyone in the office. So why buy one set of tools for why like everyone a set of tools when I can buy a single network license and just use it as required? And when I close a tool, it releases that network license and the next person can use it. And the same goes for all of our other tool sets as well. Okay. So if there's any questions at all, please feel free to either drop them into the chat or there's a question and answer section. Be more than happy to answer any of those, any questions that you may have. Okay. I'm not really seeing anything coming in. Okay. So in that case, have an excellent rest of your day, and hopefully we'll come back for the next one. All right. Have a great, have a great rest of your day.